All right, Marlon Humphrey is here, two-time All-Pro, including last year, one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. He's here to talk about new Alabama football documentary, Nothing But a Winner. What's going on, Marlon?
Nothing much. Just enjoying the last couple of days before the season starts, and excited about this film.
Yeah, so I want to start there. Obviously, about 2 weeks until you actually start real training camp, but a week until you start getting the juices flowing, reporting, weighing in, all that stuff. What do you do? What does Marlon Humphrey do on his last free weekend? Is that golf? Is that just sitting by the pool? Is that catching up on sleep? What's the move?
It's a little bit of golf, actually a bit of golf.
There we go. I was waiting for that. Okay.
Training in whatever way you can get the heart rate outside
Okay.
of football. Because you're about to do a ton of football. If you're out of shape now, you will be training camp. And then lastly, just enjoying family time. That's probably the biggest one. You know, you're not going to have as much time if you have kids, if you got a wife, if you got family, you're just not going to be able to spend as much time. So doing as much as you can. And then 'cause once it starts, man, it just goes. The next thing you know, you blink and you're at the bye week.
Incredible. It's really incredible. And then you blink and it's January. Like, it's unbelievable. And I
Yeah.
can't even imagine what it's like for you guys. It feels like that in the media. We'll start out with Nothing But a Winner, the Alabama football story. Take me through your involvement in this doc and what you think is special about the Alabama story that needs to be told, Marlon.
Yeah. So I was executive produced Nothing But a Winner, me and my sister. My sister has been living in LA for however many years now, doing the whole actor Hollywood thing. I've actually, back during COVID, they were doing taped auditions. So I think I was doing a little bit with her then of just some of the recording, not being a part of it. And it's something I always wanted to do, to be a part of the film. I wanted to be in a film. There's a lot of things in the film space that I've wanted to do. And this opportunity got presented to me, and I took advantage of it. And it's been really cool. I mean, two of the greatest coaches I've ever coached.
Yeah.
And everything in between, big wins, tough losses to Auburn with the kick six. So it's not just about Alabama football. Then there's a little bit of how kind of it started, with segregation and the first African American to attend the university and play football. So there's a lot going on. But the biggest thing is just essentially it's just a film almost about greatness, and that greatness just so happens to be kind of somewhat towards University of Alabama and everything that came in between.
When someone is around someone like Nick Saban, and by the way, played defensive back for Nick Saban, like that's a different ball game. That's not. Yeah, I'm sure centers learned a lot from Nick Saban, but like when you're dealing with DBs, it's a different ball game. It's like getting painting lessons from Picasso. I always want to pick their brain on what they learned and what kind of blew their mind. If there was something that Nick Saban taught you about football that in a million years you never would have thought of, especially in the defensive backfield, what was that lesson?
From the football perspective that Saban taught me, it was probably starts for DB. You can't do anything without your feet, and that is that really is just the name of the game. You can't do anything with your feet. But from a just learning, I think I took more just because, this guy, I picked the University of Alabama because I knew specifically I'd be getting coached by this guy. The guy that's recruiting me is the guy that's going to be coaching me. And what I really took more from just life is this guy is one of the greatest coaches of all time. I think when I was there, maybe he'd won 3 championships already. Every single meeting, every single time I ever saw him in a meeting, he had a pen pad, he had a pen, and he was taking notes on whoever was talking. Didn't matter who it was. We could be whatever. It didn't matter. It seemed like it'd be okay, we're just kind of you got to do this every year. Whatever it was, he was always taking notes. And I sat, one row behind him. And that's probably the biggest thing. He just, a guy that he always just kept trying to build. There's always something to take. And that's kind of an approach I take now. Whenever there is a meeting, no matter how long or whatever it is about, I try to just take one thing from any time somebody gets up and talks in front of me. Just one thing. It might be an hour long. If you can just try to strive for just one thing, it can take you a long way. So that's probably one of the biggest things that I kind of learned.
When you say you can't do anything without your feet, what does that mean? Like, I obviously know what it means in broad strokes, but like on a play-to-play basis, what does using your feet mean as a DB?
Just biggest thing is just balance. I think there's so many times when it's just really leverage versus leverage. And just the the balance of how your feet are. Some people, want to get outside of your frame. You really can't do anything when you get outside of your frame. And that's really for every single position. It doesn't really matter how strong you are up top without the balance of your feet, equalness in those 2 feet. It's limited what you can do. And I think I remember, one of my first times meeting Saban as a recruit, he gets up in his slacks and starts doing DB like sliding side to side, and I'm just like, he's in a full suit, some slacks, some loafers, and I'm just like, all right. I mean, there's no better way to teach than to just get up and do it. Hopefully, I'm doing it a little faster than you, but that was one of my first meetings, and he just got up out of his seat and just step, and that's the biggest thing I got.
Those practices, I went to University of Miami. And so you hear the stories about the 80s and 90s where not only is it intense, not only is it hot, but the biggest thing is the recruiting classes were so stacked that you're worried, first of all, about the job you inherited because somebody's off to the NFL and you got to carry on their legacy. And then you're worried about whoever's behind you because they're also the best player in the country, a year younger than you are, and they might take your job. Explain to me how intense those practices got, given how Nick Saban runs these practices. Like, take me through, let's do this, the best practice you were ever a part of at Alabama and what it was like.
Oh man, I think the, I was my sophomore year, it was just a team of, it was just a team of very, I'm not going to say crazy, but very determined guys to win football games. And it was mainly, we had offensive guys too, but the alphas, they all just so happened to be on the defense, I felt. And like the guys that just like didn't care to say just a little bit, you want those guys on your team. And we were prepared. I've told this story before, I think, and we were preparing for LSU. And that was the year Leonard Fournette was having just a crazy year. I mean, he was clearly the number one Heisman favorite. And I guess the D-line and the linebackers, they were just, determined, like, nah, he's not doing that to us. He's not doing that to us. And this was a pretty intense week. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this might have been the same week when Saban and Reuben Foster got into it a little bit. And so that's a, that was something. But, that's what I love about Saban. He got on everybody the same. But so Saban had already I felt Saban sets the kind of standard every day, every week, every time. But I felt the players on defense took it above what he had even set that week. And I don't even remember after that first thing Saban said early in the week, I don't remember him really saying much the rest of the week. And I'm not going to say I was having a bad practice, but a couple balls, went up, and a couple, scout team guys maybe got one. And my safety at the time comes up to me, and he's, the defensive sideline in practice is kind of, D-line, linebackers, and DBs kind of at the end. He comes up to me, he's like, "Hey man, they said you might want to pick up practice or they're going to handle it." And I'm like, what do you mean handle? I'm like, what do you mean handle it? He's like, you're my guy. You might want to get it together. And I'm like, oh crap, like, because like, it's practice. Like, I'm not trying to practice bad, but it was. I almost basically got beat up by my own teammates in a good way, which would have been a crazy statement to say, like, what happened? I got in a fight. It's like, but in a good way. So that was kind of how a week was when I was there. It was a high level of intensity from week in and week out. And, you come in, I think the biggest thing I realized is when I came in, you're like, okay, this guy started last year, this guy left. You don't really think about the second string, the third string. These guys are all the best in their town, the best in their city, the best they've ever seen. Mm-hmm. And there's not really anyone bad on an Alabama roster from the years when Saban was there. And even the guys that are maybe that you would consider bad, mentally they might not be in the right place. Physically, they might have been in the right place, but the raw tools they all have. And it's very tough. I know when I was playing, it wasn't so easy to transfer. But
Yeah.
Now, obviously, guys come in, leave, and it's a little wild, wild west. But when I was there, it was if you miss that first window when you get a chance, you kind of will get past, and it's really hard
Mhm.
to gain back because that next recruiting
Yeah.
class kind of you're already competing with them out the gate. So it's really tough. But Saban made sure that the standard stayed the standard, and then I felt the players picked up right where he said it.
Two quick ones on Alabama before we get to the Ravens, what you're doing in the NFL. You overlapped for 1 year with Jalen Hurts, who just won the Super Bowl MVP award. What did you see from Jalen Hurts as just a freshman, as a guy coming in, as a recruit that made you think that he was going to be special?
You would have never really been able to tell he was a freshman, even as a freshman. He was just always had a natural, and obviously he progressed, got even better than where he was his freshman year. He's kind of just getting his feet wet, but he was very mature even at a freshman year age. That's something that definitely stood out, and I think the leader he is now, he blossomed into that. But as a freshman, that would have been insane if he would have just came in just verbally being a leader. But how he carried himself, he kind of definitely led by example. He was never a guy that was going to do anything to be a distraction, anything to really just off the field, extracurricular things, negative extracurricular things. He was always very focused on the task at hand. And that was just as a freshman. Like, I don't remember him doing anything out of the extraordinary, which is very impressive because I know I was one of those guys that might have been doing the extracurricular stuff. But I did handle business when I handled business, but hanging out, a lot of those things he didn't really take part of. He reminds me of Minka in the fact that he came to school to get a diploma, win a championship, and go to the NFL. And he showed that as a freshman.
Derrick Henry, there when you were there. You mentioned alphas and just best on best, iron sharpens iron, all that. It feels like even among the alphas, Derrick Henry probably stands out in the practice field. Tell me a Derrick Henry practice field story.
I can Derrick was definitely he's not the biggest he's not one of those guys that I would say are a little wired different, but his game is definitely crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
I was very happy for the D line I had at Bama and linebackers that I did not have to tackle Derrick too much in practice because Ruben just used to just take things personal.
Yeah.
Jay Reed and DJ Petway and there's so many guys that just really took like the offensive success like a personal attack, and it was just y'all not it. So Derek, it used to be some good battles. Luckily, I was mainly watching. A couple
There you
times
go.
I had to tackle Derek, no fun. I obviously tackled in the NFL, definitely no fun. But it's great to see him on my team now, and he's doing big things. He's one of the guys I'm closest with on the team at Bama and kind of now in the Ravens. So Derek, biggest thing I remember about Derek is working out after practice. It seems like that guy just weights don't face him. Maybe he's got inflated weights. I'm not sure, but he was always picking up some iron after every practice. And one time he actually it was in the summer. He offered us if we could complete his workout, he'd take us out to lunch. And that was a hard workout to get through. I can't remember what we did, but we were all gassed after it. I don't even know we actually got lunch actually, but he definitely offered, and we did it, and it was a really good workout. But he's a workhorse.
Yeah. Now you're with the Ravens. I picked the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. I don't want you to pick the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. I don't want Chad Steele coming in the Zoom right now and saying, no, don't say win the Super Bowl. But obviously, when you're this close, it's all you think about. Do you tackle the offseason differently? Do you tackle the way the approach to the season differently when you're that close? I mean, just take me through your mindset right now going into training camp when so much of the focus is on January and February.
The biggest thing is, I wouldn't say I attack it differently. I think you do a lot more thinking though, especially when you're that close. You try to figure out what did you do wrong, so what could you have done better, which you kind of do every offseason. But when you're that close, it stings for a while. I think that the biggest misconception, is that, oh man, like it's 2 weeks after they lost, like he's like enjoying his life. It's like Yeah, it's like, trust me, it does suck. You think about it, you don't really forget about it. The next season, you're going to be thinking about it. Training camp, you're going to think about it. When you're training, you're going to be thinking about it. And then you do have a move on phase, but the margin for error, the window to get that Super Bowl is it opens and closes, and it's very hard to get there. It's even harder to win it. And you go into the offseason and you kind of just try to figure those things out slowly but surely. It'll be a completely different team. And that's it doesn't matter even if you have almost everybody coming back, just the vibe of the team, it just always changes. You can't just do the same thing you did last year and have the same success. So it's building that back up. And, as you get older, you do have to train a little bit harder to get similar or better results. You got to be a little bit more efficient. That's the biggest thing I'm focusing on, the efficiency of my movements, the efficiency of what I eat. You definitely can't do that. I can't do the things I was doing when I was 22, 23. You got to be a lot smarter. I was just riding a four-wheeler and I was like, ooh, let me not get hurt on this thing. That's something I just would not have thought about when I was 22 out here at my place. So you think a little bit smoother, you think a lot more wiser as you get older. And how much longer can you play? How much longer will this team have? And you want the ring, and that's the biggest thing.
To that end, real quick, I'll say this. I picked up an elbow injury playing golf the other day, and I told some of my buddies who were older, and they were like, one day you'll be, in a couple of years, you'll be begging for it to just be the elbow. And I was like, that's bad news. I'm in my late 30s. Like, it's not a good thing to hear. But no, yeah. So you mentioned, kind of being introspective and all that. Does it drive you nuts? I know everybody tries not to pay attention to the media, but when you're that close for so long, and the Bills are in this bucket too, when you're this close for this long, all the takes build up, all the doubts build up. Is there anything that's gotten you either upset or that you just vehemently disagree with when you see these kind of takes about the Ravens in the offseason?
Things don't really bother me too much. I'm as someone that wants to be in the media one day post football. I understand people, this is really believe it or not, this is actually their job to actually kind of give what their take is. A lot of people and fans and even players kind of can't understand that. And like, man, that guy's hating on me. It's like, well, he possibly could be hating on you, but it still is technically his job. And that's just his take. And so I think the only thing that does bother me, I will say, is one, when I see things that are just very, very, very not true about certain things. And then two, not even about myself, really about just Lamar. Things really don't bother me, but there's just so much things that just aren't true about Lamar and just the takes of why this happened, why that happened. And it's more so I've just always felt that it's not equal across the board. And I know life isn't fair, but there's 31 quarterbacks that lost that did not win the Super Bowl, but there's only like one or two that kind of get blamed for XYZ. And I feel like Lamar's always in that category. And, it is what it is. That's kind of just the take right now. I think that's just the most popular take right now. And that's probably the only thing that does bother me. But I do understand, the media has to do their job. Well, one day I've always thought about, when I get done playing, if I pursue media,
whenever you're ready, buddy. Whenever you're ready.
Yeah. I'm gonna make a PSA to any and everybody. Guys, this is now my job to talk about you in a positive or negative, whatever you think it is. But there, I hate seeing the media wars between players and guys, just because it's not really that serious, but maybe it is to them.
Is there anything, a misconception specifically, that you'd like to clear up about Lamar when you hear these takes?
Anything involving Lamar and lack of leadership would be one, probably just top of the line. Like the dude's humility is just, it's crazy. I think it just makes everybody around him better, just because he acts like he's on the roster bubble for some reason. And he's like not like, and so I think I remember when I first came in, I sat down at the lunch table or maybe breakfast, and Joe Flacco just sat down next to me. And I remember just being like, I just wouldn't think a quarterback would do that. I just would think, like, why would he sit next to this rookie dude? That's just that was like one of my first memories being in the building, and I just was like, for some reason, I don't know why, I just thought that would just not happen. And so I thought that was a small, cool thing that to me showed his humility. And I think about rookies coming in now with Lamar and like the way he acts, it it makes you just relax. And I think that comes from just the head at Baltimore, from the ownership, the GM, the head coach. It all trickles down from the family perspective, the humility perspective, from a lot of different ends.
We do something called badasses, which is the most badass person you've ever played with, been around in football. The way I define it is alien comes down, says, take me to the badass football player. Who are you taking him to, Marlon?
This is from, okay, no? Okay. Man, okay. All right. I got two people. But one is in a phase that I did not see him in. One is Pernell McPhee. I got him on the back of his career. And you could just tell and I heard stories, that this is the most throwed off, screw loose guy probably ever.
Yep.
And I can imagine him when he was in his, younger prime days, because people have already told me how just nuts he was, basically. And then secondly, a guy I played with, and Reuben Foster. He was just that I'm not going to give too much details about that Saban Reuben interaction, but that interaction was something I never saw again with their Saban interaction with their player, and it was a situation, but he was just he did like I don't remember him being necessarily the biggest vocal guy. Mm-hmm. He would say things if you needed, but the way his game was, the way he played was wild. And I just felt it was some of the stuff I saw in practice was just next level. So I would say those two guys. Those are my two.
Last thing for you, what's on your golf bucket list? We'll put it on social media. We'll help you out. What do you need to accomplish, play, whatever it is in golf? I know you're a golf sicko. I've seen you on social media.
I'm obsessed with golf. I would say, and I think it's going to be achievable. I think it's very good. I think I really got into it this offseason. I already got a hole in one, which is awesome. I'm going to say breaking 79 or shooting 79, breaking 80.
Shooting 79. Okay. I did it a month ago, and it was the best feeling I've ever had, except my child being born. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, I know that's the thing about golf. It does actually take time. It's like I really just got into it this offseason, and I don't know what happened, but I'm like hooked. I went in my garage because I was playing a lot of Maryland golf. Went in my garage. I had maybe 6 years of worth of golf balls, some golf balls I just bought and never used, because I always said I'm going to get into golf this year. I'm going to get into golf this year. And this year I finally did it. So it's been awesome. But I think next offseason I'm at 89. Honestly, the way I've been playing, that might have been a fluke at that. So I'm trying to get down there, but it's been fun. It is just, you don't have much margin for mistakes, and I kind of like that.
What's harder, cornerback or golf?
See, I would. So you can't necessarily have a strategy for cornerback. While like golf, you can be like, okay, let's be smart here. The corner, you can, but eventually you gotta play the game. And they doesn't matter how bad. Like, let's just play. I'm playing Jamar Chase. Let's play safe. That's probably not really. That's not really a thing. It's not really a thing. But I definitely got to give it to golf. Even though football's cornerback's hard, golf is just, even the pros get frustrated and pissed. And I think that's the weirdest thing about golf. Like someone can just beat Scotty Scheffler on a certain day, and that's just not. If you're not in the NFL, you're probably not covering Jamar Chase just casually on a Tuesday afternoon. So I got to go with golf, but football's hard to corner, especially.
All right, Marlon. Nothing But a Winner is the film. Thank you so much, buddy.
Cool. Thank you.